So I think we can start. So good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. We're just about to start another Effisus Connect to Value session. Today I'll be followed by my colleague Ricardo Ramos. Thank you, Ricardo, for joining us.
Thank you, Jean. Good morning to everyone.
So as you are aware, today we'll be discussing HVAC interventions in flat roofs. All these topics, all these sessions, specific, including today's sessions, this is should be always available on our YouTube. You can also access a previous session through our website if you have any question, any doubt. We do also have a chat available here. So feel free to leave a comment or a question during the presentation. We'll be glad to answer. So when it comes to HVAC interventions, we see a lot of things specific in flat roofs. Today we focus on flat roofs, but notice those cases could be applied to even other types of roof. We see a lot of pipes. We see a lot of crossing penetrations coming through the roofs. And this is for many reasons. When it comes to ventilation, air conditioning, we always need the roof itself pretty much all time will be penetrate, will face these cases. It's important to mention that the common solutions when it comes to flat roof, when you have a bituminous membrane, asphalt membranes, it's completely different in a way to seal all these type of penetrations. For instance, you see here this case they were sort of welded behind these penetrations. And it's important to see that those solutions are all right for a quite period of times, but after long exposure, since there can be completely exposure to UV, to water, to rain, those solutions eventually will start to fail. So here today we'll be discussing how these interventions should be fulfilled, how actually should seal this type of crossing penetrations, preventing pipe ducts, and that is today's topic. Another very common thing here, again, when you see this, uh, you usually, most common solutions that comes with sealant, mastics, that will start to crack, and you actually don't know because they fulfill for 3 to 6 months, they're all right, but we see a lot of problems happen later on, correct, Ricardo?
Yes, Jean, indeed. There are really several problems that arise in medium to long term when there is this type of installation in roofs, or when there are support structures for these types of installation. Usually, structures are very exposed. This type of structures are very exposed to wind, and because of that, they have many structural movements. Not only structural, but also because of temperature variations. But a lot of these structures, when they are applied in a roof, they are very exposed to wind, and so there's a lot of movement expectations. So in other type of structures, we have a lot of vibration when they are working. So there are types of installation of working machines that has a lot of vibration, and their connections must be applied something that can absorb that kind of movement.
Absolutely, Kat. And that's why we see here in this case, when it's possible, that this is not always the case. Here is next to the wall. You see this pipe is attached to something, it's hanging to something to avoid this sort of vibrations. But most of the case, in many of the cases we see outside, this is not possible to have this sort of hanging. So again, depending on the type of penetration, the height we see on this ventilation pipes, they were constantly moving and vibrating through the wind. Another very common thing you see here when it comes to this machines that you mentioned, and when you see this ducts, very large ducts coming through the roof, and you even have this gap between here. So again, this is a very weak point, and it will lead to a leak even inside the building. Another types of penetration that I decided to brought here is this sort of crossing beams that we see. Again, this is not much related to HVAC, but we see this a lot of times, and the solution we decided to brought today not only apply to HVAC penetrations in this type of work we see aside, but all these other types of crossing. Not a very common thing is that having an antenna. And in this case, they use this solution, which is a pitch pocket, using the same membrane, with the bituminous membrane, to try to cover up this antenna. And again, not very effective. Of course, will lead to a crack somehow during this process. Again, because of the vibrations, the material is being applied and total exposure to wind and sun.
Yeah, João,
This
yeah,
material for sure
if
will crack.
if you let me. Yes,
Yeah,
as you're saying, traditional solutions normally like silicone, they when they are applied in this situation, the material will harden very quickly. And when this kind of parabolic um, is exposed to wind, like I was talking previously, we are expecting a lot of movements. And when we have a material that is hard, and like silicone, it only will end up cracking, and we'll see this photo in the final part of the presentation with our solution applied, and more simple and more effective way to solve this kind of issue. And you will understand that we can apply in this type of situation, but in the HVAC situations, it's a very versatile solution, and it will be very interesting for the ones that don't really know the solution.
absolutely. And as I mentioned, Ricardo, most of the case today we focus on flat roofs, but again, this is could be applied to different situations, depending on the project expect, depending the case itself.
Yes.
So this is another very common thing here. Would happen since you have this type of penetration coming, and even this cable coming through the inside. So even a heavier material, a heavier movement is expected here, and even the roof itself start to cracking all
Yes.
around the penetration. And you see this, and you see, oh, this is not common. This is will not actually happen. But we see this many times, correct, Ricardo? Sites.
Yes, yes, without a doubt, John. We see a lot of this sealing on site with these traditional solutions, and normally there are situations that w- we can't expect more from this traditional solution, because there are situations that the pipe or the situation, it's really something that will move, and we expect a lot of movement, and the traditional solution will solve it in the first few months, maybe 1 year, but with the kind of movement that we expect from these kind of situations, we can't expect more from these traditional
Yeah.
solutions.
What we wanted is just to highlight that this solution has silicon or any type of mastics. This shouldn't be just a very quick repair works.
Yes,
They shouldn't be working or considering that as a long-lasting solution or a final solution for this type
exactly.
of
Well,
finishing or sealing of penetration.
yeah, for that kind of repair, they work perfectly for a little.
Yeah.
But the problem is people are using it for everything, and there are situations that with a year, it's very difficult that it will last a year.
Absolutely, got it. So here is the solution that we decided to bring today, and we call it Effisus stopper. This is a solution for sealing of penetration on roofs. It's interesting to mention that you see later on when it comes to the application and even the aspects of the solution, that it fits to pretty much any type of configuration on flat roofs. So again, stopper includes multiple solutions for sealing of penetration, but focusing today on this one specific, which is the multi-shaper. So the system itself is composed by three products, so three main products, I'll say. which is the one-piece sealant, which is a self-leveling portable sealant. And this is the one that you put inside the curb itself to fill. And this is will remain this flexible characteristic that we expected for a very long-lasting solution. Another part of the system itself is the Dam1 sealant. This one, we use it to adhere the curb to the substrate. And we have, this is fit to pretty much any type of substrate coming in under this constructed civil materials. And the material itself is the multi-shaper, which is these membranes, as you see here. They're flexible curves that you can adapt and form and mold to pretty much any configuration that you want. Those membranes come in different kit variations. So you could have a 1 meter, 3 meters, 5 meters configurations. And again, you could use this to mold it as you want it. The membrane itself is composed by a flexible aluminum mesh and a rubber material. So when it comes to exposure to UV and resistance, it's highly resistant. And because of the composition of the mesh of the membrane, you can adapt it. You'll be understanding more on when it comes to the application itself, the product, which is quite simple. So here are just more composition, more characteristics. Ricardo, do you like to highlight the main ones here?
Yes, Ron. As you were saying, it's very adaptable. This new mold that we call Effisus multi-shaper, that like I like to say, is an innovation inside the innovation. I have here a sample of the product. I can show how it works. This is a 1 meter membrane that João was talking about. This I was showing to clients, and it got a lot of movement.
It's already been molded a lot.
A lot, yes, because people like to it's a fact. People like to play with this when I show, because it's very flexible. And how João was saying, you can cut here, and you can mold to the pipe or to the perforation that you have in your roof. And it's very flexible, very universal, like we can see here in the slide. You can understand, it doesn't require any preparation. It's very easy to work with, very easy, no logistic barriers. You only need this membrane and the sealants to make the application. Very simple application, easy to install. Maybe in the first one we are talking about 10-15 minutes, but when you gain experience with the solution, we're talking about 10 or less minutes of application. Very easy. We have clients that apply this very easily right now. We have how can I say régua, João? In
a ruler. We have a ruler.
We have a ruler. Yes. Yeah. We have a ruler that you can see the perimeter, the diameter of the perforation that you have, or the pipe, and you can cut. You can use it to cut the membrane, and it will give you the perfect perimeter to put around the pipe. Compatible to various types of membranes or materials that you can find on a roof: TPO, PVC, APVM, concrete. It's very compatible. If you have some doubt, please send us the material or the type of material that your roof is, and we'll with our Effisus consulting department, is our technical department, will analyze it and let you know if it's compatible. And this is the way that we work. We always are supporting our clients, and we test a lot of things, and most of these materials are tested with our M1, that is the sealant that will allow this kind of membrane to
adhere to the substrate.
To adhere to the substrate. Thank you, João. and it's very interesting. And in the in the in conclusion, it's very sustainable, no vox, and it's environmental friendly if you have this kind of thinking and of way of life, we can say.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is very important. And so, thank you, Ricardo. You mentioned, I think, pretty much all the main characteristics of this product. As you're saying, this is compatible with most of the membranes and materials. If it's not, we can always go for testing. The technical department can also check, depending on the material you have applying to your roof, see how it's compatible, how it actually works with the sealant that we use to adhere to that substrate. So again, very easy, very flexible. Here on the top, you see a couple of configurations you can do. This is, I would say, quite standard. One is an oval, more circular one, but again, you can shape it as you want it. As I mentioned, this comes in 1 meter, so you can always, what you can always do here is, if 1 meter is not enough to seal your penetration, you can also attach one membrane to another. I forgot to mention, those comes in kits, including a clip. Whatever you see here in the middle is a clip that we use it to close the curvature, but you can also use it to attach different membranes on others. So here you have just quite a very animation to see how this process actually works. So first thing, you shape it, you apply the sealant, you adhere to the substrate, use the pouring sealant. We're going a little deeper when it comes to application, but here you just see how simple it is, how fast it is, that you can actually use on this type of application. So here, main characteristics, as I mentioned, is compared to most of the substrates you see, it could fit to any element. It's very easy to transport, which is something we think very interesting. We had previously other solution that the client needed sort of a specific logistic plan in a way that you need to check the exactly diameter, the exactly quantities of that you need for sealing the penetration you have. In this case, you don't have to worry about that because with 1 meter you can even fit to 3 or 4 depending on the size of the penetration you have. So very easy, and again, it could be applicable to even different climate conditions as we see. So here, Ricardo, if you help me out just when it comes to installation, I will start out just mention. So the first thing we do is always make sure the surface is properly clean and dry. This is quite standard.
Yeah.
You don't actually need a special cleaner. I mean, if it's required, depending on the materials you have, we can also provide that. But just a normal standard cleaner use to clean the surface that you're going to adhere. So as Ricardo was saying, we even provide a ruler that has a quick chart that you can see depending of the diameter of your penetration. If it's a circle of penetration, the exactly dimension that you need to cut the curb itself. So what we always do recommend is just to check this chart guide. And once you check it out, you see the actual diameter you have. For instance, you have a 50 millimeter diameter. You go to the quick chart, it will say that then you need to cut, I'll say 200, I think, 220. So you cut it 220 millimeters, you mold it as you want it, you place the curve around the penetration. What we recommend is having a minimum distance of the penetration itself of 25 millimeters. This is just a safe distance to see that once you apply the pouring sealant, you have this actual assurance of sealing all around. So you mark all the exterior. Once you place it, remove the curb, and what we have after, Ricardo.
Yes, after that, we use the M1 sealant. That is a sealant that will allow the mold, the membrane to adhere to the surface. We put the sealant around it, and we um, adhere the base to the to the perforation penetration. After we position the multi-shaper curve and press it down firmly, after we put them on, we insert the metal clip that you were talking about, that we use it
Yes, we see
to
right here in this picture.
yes to make that that joint, we can say. and we also put M1 in the clip, in each edge of the clip, and after that we put our UMP sealant, that is a rubber perimeter that always stays flexible in that area between the membrane and the penetration. Um, and I think it's as simple as this,
Absolutely,
João.
absolutely, yeah. Quite simple, quite fast. If you allow me just go back here, this is just illustration showing all the steps. So it's very standard, as Ricardo is saying. And so first one might take a little bit more time, but once you get used to, once you get more experience on this type of application, you can do it a lot. And again, this is a very long-lasting solution. We're not talking about repairing works. This is a solution for many years to come on your roof application.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
sure. Regarding what you are saying, I have a type of model in my car
oh,
of
perfect,
this
perfect.
solution,
A
and
mock-up, you have a
a
mock-up?
mock-up. Yes, yes, a model. Okay, a mock-up, and it has maybe 3 years, I can say. And what is interesting it is that when we pick up the mock-up and we start to touch the OMP sealant, that is the sealant that remains between the membrane and the penetration, it's still very flexible, and it's been 3 years and it's still very flexible. It's like a rubber that it's shaped to the penetration, and it's interesting when I pick up and it's still very flexible after 3 years. It's very interesting to see this solution.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it remains its characteristics, and I forgot to mention this is will cure over time. So in the beginning, it's very flexible. What we always recommend is this is cannot be installed during rain. It must be good weather conditions, just the application itself. But after 30 minutes, 1 hour, it can be completely exposure, no doubt. So here just a couple examples of applications that we have for this product. As again, you see here many different typologies of roof configurations, all this type of piping and crossing. And again, you can fit to pretty much all configuration you want. Um, Here are a couple examples you have even in the balustrade, for instance, and
Hmm.
this type of lifeguard penetration coming to the roof itself, all this sort of pipe ventings,
Yes.
very easy, and this is very common. We see this is when commercial industrial applications, we see this everywhere. This is not out of standard something. We see this every time, and we think all this type of penetration HVAC things that we see at site could take advantage of the multi-shaper of the stopper. Here is the first the other examples that we saw in the beginning. So again, quite easy, quite simple. In this case, I think it was not over 80 millimeters penetration. So 1 meter membrane could even fit to multiples of this case. And here is the example of the antenna that Ricardo's mentioned. Do you like to comment on that, Ricardo?
Yeah, yeah, I like this example because it's a very good example of the the of the efficiency of the cleaners and the easy way to apply our solution. We are talking about the left image that people try to put a lot of maybe silicone. I don't know what type of solution is this, but we see here that. They try to put a lot of it in this in this in this situation to try to seal it as much as they can, and it will crack either way, as they could put more and more that it will crack. And our solution, very simple, very easy, very clean, and the solution is here for many years. And I like a lot this is of this example, but like I said, this is an example that can be used to other type of installation in any roof, like solar panels, every type of installation that we see a perforation like this. our solution fits perfectly.
Absolutely, absolutely, Cado. And here is important to mention in regards to step of installation. Of course, you should always remove whatever you have applied
Yes.
previously. In this case, it was proper cleaning, so we can have this assurance that we have completely confident that the solution will work. In this case here, it was done perfectly, as you mentioned, and again, quite simple. I think was is harder than to remove than actually to
Yeah.
apply the solution itself. So here is just a more a couple examples. Again, not much related to HVAC, but you get it the point here when you're having this penetration to ceiling. In this case, is it even have any, I'll say, visual looks or architectural aspect compromise because they decided to cover up after dry a little bit with some gravel stones. So it was completely hidden. You can actually not even see whatever it was applied. And again, all completely sealed. So we have a question here saying, Louis, where can I buy this? Louis, this is part of our solutions, and you can deal directly with us when it comes to all the solutions. If you have in specific wire for a couple of dimensional kits on these products, I'll leave my email, my contact at the end of the presentation. I'll be glad to answer that question more specific. Again, here another type of penetrations, you actually need to assure it actually fit perfectly because the curb itself has a 5 centimeter height. So in this case, we're able to cover not only the base of this type of penetration you see, but also the top of it. So it fit perfectly, and this is again a very common thing we see. So here is my contact. Not I think do we have another question, Ricardo? I don't think so. So for the
No, unfortunately, no, Joe.
for those who are watching, this is my contact. If you have any additional question, information that you need regarding prices or the technical data, I'll be glad to forward this to you. Again, we're doing all the sessions every day during the week, same time, 11. We do have all the sessions and all this schedule is available on our website, effisus.com. And for us, it's very important to have you guys feedback. So for those who are watching, feel free to leave a feedback. I think Ricardo is going to post here
Yes, I'm
a
going to.
link that you can just submit your opinion, what you're thinking. This is your first time watching this is Connect Value sessions. For us, it's really important to have you guys feedback. Something positive, something negative. Um, Feel free to leave a comment there. This is only we work to improve the work that we've been doing. So once again, thank you so much, Ricardo. Thank you all
Thank
for
you, Joe.
joining us today.
Thank you all.